Hello everyone, Artie Dan's back for another episode of My Week in Horror, or My Fortnight in Horror, as these episodes seem to be moving every 2 weeks now. So last episode I said that I was going to talk about religious horror films, and while I was putting together the episode of religious horror films and going over the movie list, I came across a movie that I thought, the actress that's in this has been in lots of other horror movies, and I've always wanted to talk about this particular actress. So, instead of doing religious horror movies this week, we're going to have a look at Thai horror films starring Ploy Sornarin. Now, Ploy was born in 2001. She has 14 credits to her name. Now, her last movie is a movie called Immortal Species, which is set to release this year in 2003. Now, she's made 5 horror movies out of her 14 films, a lot of TV series in there as well. And we're going to cover all 5, so it's a bit different. Usually we do 4, this time we're going to do 5. Now, I'm also going to have the movies in order of shit to good. And I've already rated the films 1 to 5, and amazingly, every movie is either called a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So we have one movie in each of the categories of what we normally vote them on. So, without telling you what the movies are that we're going to look at, I'm going to start with the first movie of tonight, which is easily the shittest. Thanks, Dan. This really is the worst movie of hers. Now, I've covered this movie before on when I decided I was going to do a series of videos about worst ever Asian horror films. And I kind of gave up because I got sick of watching shitty Asian horror films. And this was one of them. This is a movie from 2018. And it's called Viral. And yeah, so maybe we'll just check out what the movie's about first. An annoying young girl and her annoying friends are addicted to some confusing augmented reality online mobile phone game called Ghost Hunt. They meet in an abandoned school to play. One of them is a host and the other one is the hunter. The host needs to hide a talisman in the location and keep it secret from the hunter. She then decides it would be hilarious to share photos of the ghosts that she finds around the place with her friend. So now her friends and her start to see ghosts everywhere. She then finds out her other friend, Tidal, and his family were killed in a car accident after being haunted by the ghost. Her and her friend decide that they're going to investigate who the ghost is and find her body so her spirit can rest in peace, or something like that. Yeah, so the movie kind of makes no sense. Essentially, her and her friend are in this school playing this game. They stumble across a ghost. She takes a photo of it. She starts to share the photo around. It goes viral. That wakes up the ghost. And, in true Sadako style, it starts hunting people down and killing them. This movie's really terrible. And what I mean by terrible is that the game that the whole movie is based on, this augmented reality game, makes no sense. Only 2 people can seem to play, a hunter and a, what was it called? A host. It makes no sense how the hunter ever loses this game, because one of them can clearly see where the other one is at all this time. Anyway, the shitty game is not the whole point of why I hate the movie, although that's part of it. The movie is just terrible. Wooden acting, terrible plot, horrible characters. Ploy Sornarin's character is fucking horrible in this movie, to the point where, she's just awful. You want her dead. The other characters aren't that great either. There's a boyfriend of one of the characters that's more than happy to cheat on his girlfriend if he thinks he's going to get into Ploy's pants. Fair enough. Ploy's 17 at the time this movie was made, so I'm not going to make any comments about that. But you do you, buddy. Then the whole movie ends with the fact that these 2 stupid girls seem to think that they can solve a cold case of a murder and then do solve it. Like, what does that say about the Thai police? It doesn't say much. Also, what does it say about these girls that they clearly are intelligent, which I've clearly said that they're not. It's a terrible film. I came across this one because I remember reading a comment on one of my videos on my channel a few years ago. Someone said, "Do you want to watch a bad movie? Watch Viral." I thought, I fucking love watching bad movies, so I'm going to watch it. They weren't wrong. This is terrible. It has no redeeming features. Not even Ploy, my favorite Ploy, could save this movie. And I wouldn't even watch it for her. I did watch it for her, but really, honestly, just don't do it. So, great horror or stupid trash. I said this episode was going to go from worst to best, and we were going to start with the one ghost film, and this is the one ghost film. One ghost clearly goes to this film for being just a horrible mess of a film with horrible characters, horrible plotline, horrible special effects. There's no CGI, which is good, but it's got all this augmented reality shit. And no real scares, other than kind of one scene at the chick's house where the ghost's kind of hunting her down, but not really. That's probably the only good bit. Otherwise, this is a fucking stinker, and you gotta avoid it. Now, onto the movie that I've given 2 ghosts to. Yes, thanks, Dan. 2018 was clearly a busy year for Ploy, because this movie that we're looking at now, called Reside, comes from 2018. Now, Ploy's not the main character in this one. She was the main character in the previous movie, but in this movie, she's not. She's just a supporting character, but it is still a rather big role that she plays in it. So firstly, let's check out what this movie's about. A group of people living in a spiritual healing center alongside the owner, who they refer to as Madam, are haunted by a group of spirits after the Madam performs a ritual to reincarnate a dead body on her dining table. The ritual appears to have failed, and during the night, while they wait for the Madam to recover, the spirit roams around the house, randomly possessing the people until one of them, who's the son of the Madam, is able to perform a mini exorcism. As the night continues, more secrets are revealed about the group and the event that led to the night in question, where they seek to uncover the mystery of who is under the sheet hiding the dead body on the dining table. My synopsis of this movie is pretty shithouse, but that's because it's probably a little hard to write a synopsis about this one. It's kind of weird, but also had the potential to be a really good film. So there's 5 people, 6 if you count the guy that comes towards the first 15-20 minutes, who are living in this kind of spiritual center with this woman, the Madam, runs them. Now, it's never explained the purpose of them being there. They seem to be employees, but also they seem to be wanting spiritual healing. So I don't quite get what those people are doing there at this house. But it is a spiritual center. So it kind of leads itself up to some pretty spooky settings. Now, the movie does do spooky kind of good. Possession scenes are all right. There's a scene where Ploy's character gets possessed and she does the backwards crab. That looks cool. And her eyes go all white or light colored. And for some reason, everyone has to vomit when they get possessed. I don't quite get this trope that's coming with possession films, but there's a lot of projectile vomiting in this movie as well. And Ploy does all that really well. However, of all the movies that she's in, I'd say she's probably the most annoying in this film. More annoying than the last one. And the reason why is she puts on this kind of cutesy voice, which I've never heard in any of her other movies before, so it kind of doesn't really, I don't think it suits her. The movie itself actually ends quite well. I did like the ending, and it actually isn't telegraphed. Now, if you guessed the ending, that's great. I didn't, so that was cool. I actually was deep into the movie that I didn't get it, but it just felt deflating. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't really like where the movie was going until it got to the end, where it was quite good. So it's not really a movie I can recommend. It has the potential, though. Had the potential. It has just a little bit more work to it. So with this one, using the ghost rating, great horror or stupid trash, this is the 2 ghost movie of the evening. Not completely terrible, but not great either. So it's just under average. Would I suggest that you watch it? Yeah, give it a bash. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Now on to the next movie. Now, this is an interesting one. This is from 2015. So Ploy in this movie is 14 years old. You got to keep that in mind, creeps. Keep that in mind. She's 14 in this movie. I believe this is one of her first movie roles, if not her first movie role. This movie is called Karma in English, and it's called Arbat. Well, it was called Arbat, and then it was called Arbati. which doesn't have a translation, so they've given it the name Karma. Now, I'll explain a bit more about the movie after we've gone through the synopsis. So let's check that out. In this film, a young man is forced to become a monk by his father. While at the temple during his novice stage, he falls in love with a young girl from the nearby village. At the same time, the novice monk witnesses scenes of gross misconduct by one of the senior monks at the temple. If you're a long-time viewer of this channel or the Asian Film Fans channel, I've covered this film before on a series of movies that I did about horror films that were banned in Asia. And the original cut of this movie is banned in Thailand. And the reason it's banned is because of the way it depicts monks, and it doesn't depict them very well. As I said in the synopsis, scenes of gross misconduct by one of the senior monks at the temple. There's scenes of sexual intercourse, rape, pregnancy, and alcoholism, or just alcohol in general. And essentially a monk behaving badly, which was not something that the monk fraternity in Thailand was happy to have a movie about. Now, this movie has a female director, so you're kind of thinking it's not from, a bloke who was trying to be a monk who was kicked out. The director and the writer is female in this film. And from what I understand, she was quite pissed off that the movie in its original cut was banned. So she went back and recut the movie, which is the version I've seen. So she alludes to a lot of things that are still kind of in the film, but I think that the severity of them have been toned down. So Ploy's role in this movie is the village girl. Now, she does play a very young girl in this film because she is young. So she does play that 14, 15-year-old in the movie. And the monk that the whole movie's about, who's a bit of a rebel, he clearly kind of doesn't want to be there and seems to be forced to be there. He falls in love with her. But at the same time, he also has a girlfriend, which he's kind of obsessively stalking over on his mobile phone, constantly calling her, constantly checking her social media to see what she's up to. So it's a bit confusing about the Ploy character coming in to kind of mess around with his life. But Ploy does a really good job in this one. Now, again, I think there may have been some toning down of their scenes. I believe there is a kissing scene, but probably not much more. There's a lot of innuendo and flirting, which happens, which again, when you consider the age of Ploy at the time and the age of the character, is a little uncomfortable. And perhaps that's what the director was going for. But this is a hard film to find. And it was provided to me by my usual horror movie supplier who had this film. But I would think it's pretty difficult to find if you wanted to see it. But it is an interesting film. I think it's an original cut. If I was to see the original cut of the film, I'd probably rate this film higher than the 3 Ghosts has been awarded for this episode. Because, it's nice to see a different side of the monks. Now, with Thailand, I'm trying to think. I don't watch too many Thai horror films, and certainly when it comes to monks, I probably don't watch those at all. But I'm assuming there are positive films about monks. I can think of in my head of those stupid Peanut movies, which are fucking awful, about the clearly gay guys who turn into monks, and I'm wondering whether that's about as far as Thailand will allow a parody or lampooning of monks before it goes too far. And I think this movie kind of pushed that barrier of like, well, you're supposed to see them as being above human. You're not supposed to see them as human, as making mistakes, as having flaws, as being jealous, of being aggressive, of wanting carnal desire, which is clearly what they want in this film. There's a whole subplot, and it's actually kind of a really cool being or ghost or monster in this film, which is part of what the whole movie's about. And that does give it a bit of a layer, but there is this subplot about a villager who has sex with the head monk, and then has the illegitimate baby of him. There's a lot more. There's layers to this film that really should be watched and should be explored. But because this is an episode about Ploy, we're only looking at Ploy's role in this film, and Ploy's there to kind of add some confusion, to add some temptation to our main character, the monk. Again, Ploy doesn't play the major role in this film. She has a part role. So using the ghost rating, great horror or stupid trash, this is the 3 ghost film. And it is one of those films that if you can find it, I would recommend watching it. But it's not a film that you should essentially go out and look for. If the uncut version of this movie ever gets released, I would think this would rate higher than a 3 ghosts. But as it stands, it's 3 ghosts. Now on to the next film. You see, now we're getting into it. Now we're getting into the final 2 movies. And these are the 2 movies I really enjoyed. This one, I actually really did enjoy it. Now, what's interesting is when you read up about other people's reviews about this film, is they don't tend to like it, which I find really odd because as a teen horror film, it's pretty damn good. So this is from 2017. So Ploy's 16 at the time. This is before Viral. And this is from the same production house that made Viral. So it's really perplexing when you watch this movie and see how good it is, how they fucked everything up with Viral. Anyway, let's go check out what this movie's about. Set in the teen hangout of Siam Square, we follow a rather large group of teens who frequent the area to attend a cram school, a place where they can do extra studies before they undertake their university entrance exam. Unbeknownst to the teens, the cram school is a known location for the Siam Square urban legend, a ghost of a lost schoolgirl who can be found late at night in one of the classrooms. She sits on a particular chair, covered in red yarn, and has the ability to emulate other people and enter their dreams. When the person awakes from the dream, they find red yarn strapped around their right wrist, which is an indication that they're marked for death. The ghost also has the ability to divide friends and pit them against each other, allowing them to see the truth about what others really think of them. We follow a group of teens from several schools who meet at the cram location as they try to work out how they can stop the ghost from taking their lives after they accidentally make contact with her in the classroom. So yeah, urban legend movie. And I kind of like urban legend movies that are like this. There are more modern urban legend movies. So previously in an episode of My Week in Horror, I covered a Thai movie called Lizard Woman, which was about an older urban legend. And I thought that was a terrible film. But this one is about a newish urban legend. So hence probably why I'm a bit more connected to this one. Now, again, Ploy's not the main character in this one. Ploy is a sub-role. And now Ploy plays, to kind of spoil the film for you, she plays the ghost, which is kind of cool because she actually does a really good job. She's actually really good in this film. In fact, the whole cast is actually really good in this film. Now, what I liked about this film was the cast. There's a couple of guys who have this YouTube ghost channel called Ghost Your Dad. I think it's what it's called, which is hilarious. I don't know if that's lost in translation or whether it's supposed to be deliberately that hilarious, but I think that's great. And there's a couple of really spooky scenes, especially the scene where the 4 boys are in front of the computer and one of them comes back and sits in front of the computer, but it's actually not him, it's a ghost because the other boy is somewhere else in the house. So that scene's kind of creepy, and I did like that scene. And the scenes in the school are also really good too. They're kind of set at night, really show this whole environment of the kids are cramming and they're so busy trying to learn that they don't kind of see what's going on around them, including the ghost. And there's probably some metaphors here that I'm not picking up. I'm not a Thai person. I'm not a teenager. So I'm clearly not going to pick up those metaphors. But they're there in this film, and they make the film enjoyable. I don't understand why people don't like it. Probably... Actually, I think I can understand why people don't like it. It is a teen drama with horror elements, not a full-on horror film. So I can understand if you're going in thinking, oh, I want a full-on horror film. Siam Square is not the full-on horror film, but it has those elements of teen drama to it, and it mixes them together. I don't think you can go wrong with this film. I'm interested to know, if you watch it, what you think of it, because I've given it 4 ghosts. I really like it, and I'd like to see more movies like this. More movies that tackle modern urban legends in that kind of teen environment. It's kind of cool. And Ploy Sornarin's great in this. She is a very secondary character, but still gets enough screen time that makes it worth it. And of course, it's part of her filmography, so of course you have to watch it. Siam Square, using the great horror or stupid trash rating, gets 4 ghosts. It is our 4 ghost movie of this evening. We have one more movie left. Now, if you're a Ploy Sornarin fan, you probably know exactly what movie this is. It is the 5 ghost movie, and this is the one that I love the most. This is awesome. I finally get to talk about this movie. Finally, I've spoken about it again. I get to talk about it again, I should say. This is from Lee Thongenkamp, who directed Killer Bears, the Killer Bear movie, right? So I remember watching that Killer Bear movie and thinking, well, there's a lot of similarities between the Maid, this movie, and that movie. And we'll explore those after the synopsis. But this is The Maid from 2020. A new housemaid begins working in a luxurious mansion owned by a wealthy woman and her husband. They have a young daughter who is forbidden from leaving the house and who has been diagnosed with a mental illness due to the fact that she has visions of a woman around the house. Those visions are the ghost of the dead maid, who seems desperate to make contact with the new maid to help her uncover the truth about her death. But what does the new maid find out about her death, and how does she react to the truth? If I tell you this movie is batshit insane, you won't believe me if you watch it and get up to about the 55 an hour mark. Because nothing happens in that time. That is all story build up. But then it hits what the movie titles Chapter 3. So the movie's split into 3 chapters. And when the movie hits Chapter 3, that's when the shit hits the fan. And that's when the movie goes from 3 to fucking insane. And anyone who's seen this movie will say, holy shit, what an ending. That was fucking insane. It's the same thing. Now, if you have seen the Killer Bear movie, and then you know that kind of plot twist, then that's the same plot twist that happens here in The Maid. So clearly, it's obvious that he thought it worked in The Maid, it'll work in the Killer Bear movie. Ploy's great in this. This is Ploy's best ever movie role. She's 19 when this movie was made back in 2020. And she plays the new maid. The new, bright-eyed, innocent maid. Cute girl, big eyes. Looks like she's just ready to take on the world. And that's where the movie gets you. That's where the movie fucks you up. Because you're not expecting what happens. Now, there's a lot of themes explored in this movie. Interestingly, same-sex and lesbianism is explored. Now, we find out later that the dead maid was actually a lover of both the husband and the wife, and also has a child. I think she has a child, isn't it? Yeah. No, maybe not. I'm getting that confused. But anyway, she's the husband and wife's lover. So you kind of get the idea that there are 2 potential murderers of her. 2 potential suspects, that's the word I'm looking for, of why this maid's dead. But you don't find out what the new maid's relationship is to the old maid until that 3rd chapter. So the movie also has these really great scenes of Ploy's character talking to a psychologist. And initially you're thinking these scenes don't make sense because Ploy seems like a fairly level character. Doesn't seem to be anything wrong with her. But there are these questions, these back and forths between her and the psychologist. How are you going? How's everything today? And she's saying, I'm good. I'm having a great day, blah, blah, blah. It kind of makes you wonder, there's something really going on here. Now, there's interesting because there's backstory to Ploy's character as well. So Ploy's not... Yeah, but the backstory happens a bit later. And the backstory kind of showcases a bit of Ploy's dark side. And her dark side is fucking dark. And I think Ploy had a great time on the set of this movie. I think when she read the script, she was like, oh yeah, I can't wait till we film this 3rd chapter because I'm going to have fucking fun. And I think she did. This movie was hit on Netflix a couple of years ago when it came out. And I really do think it is the best horror movie of her filmography. Of her 5 films that she's done that are horror, this gets a 5 ghosts. A great horror or stupid trash, I'm giving this 5 ghosts because I really like it. And I really want you to like it. So please go and watch it and tell me what you think of it. Drop a comment below if you've seen it. But I'd also be interested to know if you don't agree with me. If you don't think that it had that same effect that it did for me. Because I'd be curious to know why not. Were you expecting it, or did you think it was cliched? I don't think it's cliched. Ploy's good in this. So this was the Ploy Sornarin episode. Something I've always wanted to do, and I actually wanted to make a proper video about her as well. I enjoy her films. I enjoy her horror films. And I'd like to see more of them. As she gets a bit older, hopefully she can kind of take on a bit more of the better types of horror films. But, for someone who's starting out a career, she's doing a great job, and she's ridiculously popular from what I understand in Thailand, based on a lot of the TV shows that she's done previously. So that's the episode. Press like if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if you've got some feedback for me. Otherwise, I'll catch you probably in a couple more weeks with the next episode of My Week in Horror, and I will be looking at that religious horror film episode. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time.